For those of you who caught your spouse cheating, how did you do it? She was having too many girls' night out. I was skeptical. I checked her location on Find My and saw she was at the neighbor's house. He's single. A betrayal like that is devastating. Mine went on a girls' night out, while I went out with the boys. Around 1 AM, I'm in my mate's kitchen, and she phones me. I thought she might need help getting home or something, so I pick up, but it's her and some guy having a conversation followed by what sounds like a makeout session. To this day I have no idea if she accidentally or intentionally phoned me that night. That was rough. We broke up the next morning. Told me that he was at his parents' and would probably be spending the night. I was over at his parents' for dinner. They had seen me on my way home from work and invited me over. I was about to ask him when he would be finished work, so that he could meet me there, then I saw the message. Not me but a co-worker. Went on a Kentucky tour with his missus for his 21st birthday. Booked a 45-day tour, seeing like 15 different countries. A week or two into the trip she gets caught getting finger blasted by some random Spanish dude in a club in Barcelona. He is obviously devastated, and now he has to face the prospects of potentially traveling for another month with a girl who just stomped on his heart. He contemplated just calling it and flying home, but other members of the tour convinced him to stay, have a good time and to get on with his life and enjoy the holiday he paid for. He organized with Kentucky and the tour guides to rework the accommodation so he was no longer in a room with her. He told me he had a marvelous time, made some great new friends and got to experience new things. She was miserable the whole time as basically the entire group shunned her for being a massive pose, ignored her on nights out, and she was desperately hoping to get back with her ex-BF who wanted nothing to do with her. He changed his flights on the way home to fly home later than she was, and extended his European holiday in order to keep the party going with some of the new friends he had made. She had done some unexpected personal grooming and packed lingerie to take to work with her. When we got home at the end of day and she went off to get ready for bed, clearly not intending to sleep with me, I pulled the very used lingerie out of her bag and confronted her. She evaded initially, but ended up confessing it was some guy from her work she had only met a couple of days earlier. That was 3 weeks ago. She's still sleeping with the new guy while I've moved out and am trying to figure out how we sell the house we bought together 7 months ago. So, fun times. My ex used to run a construction business with a childhood friend. They were very close and his friend was in our wedding. Ex started stealing money from the business and lying about jobs. I didn't know this until his friend showed up at our home demanding we pay him back. My ex refused and told him he was going solo in the business. The friend looked me dead in the eye and told me the woman's name. No other info but just the name. I immediately knew what he meant by the look in his eye. He then gave me the address. The house was built by my husband 4 years prior. She left her diary on the lounge room floor when she went to work. I debated reading it but eventually gave in. Was then I found out about her ducking my brother multiple times when I was working night shift. When I confronted her about it, I was called a brick for reading her diary and for working night shift, therefore not being home when she got horny. I tried to explain the difference in levels of the bad things we did, but she didn't see any. For some reason, we didn't last after that. She didn't come home after dropping our youngest off at preschool 2 miles away for the afternoon session. I noticed she had makeup on and showered early on her day off, which never happened. Watched her location and she was in a rural area she never goes to and it wouldn't zoom in. Finally zoomed in and I screenshot it. Drove down and walked in on her, but naked, in his trailer waiting for round 2. He was outside smoking a cigarette and when I walked up he looked like he thought I was about to kill him. She was treating me horrible for weeks. I got suspicious so went through her phone. Found her Snapchat library of all the pics she took of herself to send off, and messages from a guy referring to those pics. I got the usual how dare you go through my phone bullshit. It really sucks having to tell the kids that mommy doesn't live here anymore. found her smartwatch which she left at home when she was heading out to New Year's Eve with the girls. I thought it was going to be funny to spy on her texts as their watch was buzzing like crazy, and I figured her and her friends were discussing meetup spots and the like. Only to see kissy faces and hearts from a mutual online friend whom she was apparently meeting. Yeah, it wasn't a great new year. Luckily that was January 2020, so that had to be the worst thing that would happen to me that year. Get it all out of the way at the start, right? Right? My BF and I each had our own laptops, but he used his for creating music in a home studio he made. So since it was always hooked up to an elaborate situation, he often used my computer to check his stuff. Well, one day he got careless and didn't log out of Facebook properly. I got on my computer and saw that I had a DM notification. Clicked on it and saw that I didn't know this person, but there was a conversation. It was then I realized that I'm on my BF account, not mine. And that message, while not spicy, was revealing. It was an old high school lady friend. She asked if he was in a relationship and he answered that he was single and has been for a while. A surprise to me as a live-in GF of 3 years. I don't know. There was just something in me that ignited. I went ham and started searching everywhere to see if this was a one-time lie or if there was something more bubbling beneath the surface. Well, I was able to contact the cell phone company and printed out phone records. He called a specific number over 1,000 times within the record time frame I pulled, which was maybe like 3 months. It wasn't his family or his best friend. I had their numbers. I did some more sleuthing and found an old phone of his and charged it and searched for this number. It was his ex-GF. I took a highlighter and marked every single instance and then took the stack of papers to confront him. I asked if he was in contact with his ex and of course he denied it. So I threw the proof at him and said how crazy it was that his phone just called her 1,000 times in the past 3 months. This paired with his drastic drop in libido, which I was giving grace about because he said he was stressed about his shitty job, and I realized it's over. Spoiler alert. They were together very shortly after I moved out. But I suspect he cheats on her too because the ex-GF and the Facebook lady friend were 2 different people. She said she was at a friend's studying. I had suspicions about a guy she was working with, so I drove about 30 minutes to his house and found her car there. I parked out front and called her. She picked up and I just let her bury herself as hard as I could. Asked her what she was studying, what the girl's name was she was studying with, where she lived, everything I could think of to make her fumble about. Then I told her to look out front of the house she was in. When I saw her peek through a blind, I waved and told her to find a new place to live and to come get her things. I know things hadn't been great for a while, but it was still a bummer to end like that. Told him I was going out with a few of my co-workers after work. Ended up drinking a bit too much, so I texted him that I'd be home later once I sobered up. Made it home around midnight and the first thing I noticed was a pair of car keys I never saw before. I immediately went on the hunt. I tried opening the bedroom door, but it was locked. After a few choice words, he eventually shuffled out by squeezing himself out of the bedroom through a cracked open bedroom door in just his boxers. He told me it wasn't what it looked like and begged me to let her out of the house without any drama. I told him to get her TF out of our house. As she tried running out, I caught a glimpse of her. It was his supervisor from work. After she left, I immediately began grilling him about how they wound up in the bedroom. He had invited her over to play his new video game I had bought him, but she started to get a headache. He didn't feel it was appropriate for his guest to lay on our hard couch, so he let her lay in our bed. Mind you, we had a guest room. Alright. So now we know how she got into the bedroom, how'd she get naked, and how is this not cheating? This moron said well, she wasn't comfortable in her clothes. So, she needed to be naked to sleep. But it's not cheating because she slept under the covers and I slept on the covers while still wearing my boxers. Safe to say I divorced him, reported them to their superiors, and left their dumbasses. Last I heard from my old neighbors, they got married. He cheated on her, she cheated on him, and they fight in the front yard. Ex-husband slept with his best friend's pregnant girlfriend who was in the process of aborting his best friend's kid. Found out when I came home from an out-of-state trip and she was moved into the house we bought together and walked in on them. They had known each other for 1 month and we had been together 6 years. Not me, but a friend of my partner caught her husband. He was stupid enough to leave his Apple Watch at home while texting a prostitute on his iPhone. Of course all the notifications were coming up on the watch as well. Funny part about it was that the prostitute was my neighbor. She, the friend, texted us to look out for his car. My partner decided it was a good time to take the dog for a walk and ran into him. He tried to come up with an excuse on the spot for being in the neighborhood. She didn't even ask him. Even better, the prostitute took his money and bailed. So I guess he didn't actually get to cheat, or does that still count? We had been having trouble conceiving. 2 miscarriages within a year. He's convinced it's something wrong with me and schedules me a well-woman exam. I say fine, knowing it's most likely due to my age and they won't be able to do anything about that, but go to the appointment anyway. They say if the labs come back abnormal they'll call me. About 4-5 days later, while at the store, he gets picked up for a warrant. I go back home and about 15 minutes later the doctor's office calls. Tells me I have an STI. No. That can't be right. I'm married. I've only been with my husband. Silence on the other end. Can I tell you I was counting down the minutes for that free 5 minutes call from jail. During a rough patch in our relationship, she didn't let me visit her, call her, or even hang out in places where she usually goes. I asked her to be honest with me after a few weeks. She told me that she went out with her ex because they were still friends and he comforted her at that point. I asked her if anything happened. She said that he just held her hand and hugged her because she was sad. Not knowing what to say, I joked and asked why she kissed him, to which she answered, "I don't know." She Facebook messaged while I was using his computer. I wouldn't have even bothered to look at his messages. Fully trusted him. Was going to tell her he wasn't on, but I took notice because he had sent a picture of himself without a shirt. Same one he had sent me when we first started dating. Got to see her teats in a bra, too. That was fun to see. Talk about my world stopping in that moment. Everything went black for a minute. I seriously consider that moment when my life split into before and after. It changed me. Changed how I see relationships. How I view love. How I look at myself. It rocked my very existence. He will never understand what it did to me. I was using his laptop for my work meeting as mine was at the service center. I went to log in my email and his was already logged in. First email was your flower delivery was successful. I didn't think much of it, however curiosity got the best of me, so I opened the email, and it was for some girl. Scrolled a few emails down, there were flight tickets, hotel reservation, car rental. He was ducking multiple girls in the course of our 2 years relationship. I packed my bags, told him I forgive him for whatever he has done and I am not going to sit and blame myself or ask myself where I was wrong, because he was always the priority, and left my research program to stay with him. Cried my eyes out when driving back home and blocked him. 1 year and still devastated, but good riddance. First, I was awoken in the middle of the night with my ex calling me to pick him up. I had fallen asleep with him next to me hours earlier. He was pulled over by the police and they impounded the car. His story was that he got up in the middle of the night to drive to the beach to watch the sunrise. Sure, Jan. Then he came home a few times from work, a white collar job, 2-3 hours late, and went directly to shower. I dropped by his work to ask him something and he kept running away from me, wouldn't speak to me or even acknowledge my existence. I had to pick up his paycheck another time and told the receptionist why I was there, because he was in a meeting. She proclaimed that I couldn't be his wife because she knew for a fact that he was not married. I confronted him and told him I knew he was cheating, and he told me I was mentally unstable and was going to have me involuntarily committed to a mental hospital. I put a keystroke tracker on his computer. I found the secret email account and the girlfriend. I knew her name, where she worked, and that he had been on dating sites for years. I changed the locks and left a note on the front door. We had been married for 20 years. While at school she kept inviting friends from the other side of the country to visit for a week or two at a time. Figured something was up, but never really could find anything out. I would generally spend time with these friends at a pub down the street, and the third one told me that they were in a RLR and she lied about her status of being married with a kid. He thought it was strange I wasn't hitting on the waitresses or the ladies at the bar, and realized that we were together when I told him why would I try have a snack when I got a meal at home. Told me all the details. My BF and flatmate went out for drinks while I stayed home with a flu. I fell asleep on the sofa watching TV and woke up to noises upstairs. It sounded like moaning and kissing. My heart sank and I felt like throwing up as I silently crept to my bedroom to peer in. My flatmate was on top of my BF half naked. She saw me and leapt off and ran out to her bedroom and shut the door. I yelled and banged on it and she ignored me. I went to him to yell and get an explanation and he pretended he was asleep, completely ignoring me and denying it the next day. She was texting someone all evening, hiding her phone behind her leg, smiling at the screen. She'd been cold and distant for weeks. I checked her phone messages the next morning and she had been shagging the VP of sales at her company. Turns out the work trips she'd been going on were all weekend getaways. I confronted her and she said it would never have happened had I not been neglecting her. I apologized and said that looking after our 18-month-old daughter while also trying to keep my own freelance business going, while she's out all day at her full-time job, tends to leave me drained by the end of the day. She went to her parents' house to give me some space, left me with our daughter obs. I checked her iPad and she was messaging him arranging another work trip. When she came back I confronted her again. She said I had violated her privacy. She divorced me for unreasonable behavior as she didn't want a publicly recorded divorce for infidelity. She also hid a large amount of money during the financial separation but was caught thanks to an accidentally redirected piece of postal mail. I got half of it but had already spent it on legal fees. She later blamed it all on postnatal depression, so none of it was her fault. My husband and I were sharing an iPhone charger one time while out and about with some friends. My phone battery was running low, so I went to the car to plug it in, and when I unplugged his phone to plug mine in, lo and behold, when the screen lit up, I see "I love you so much. Can't wait to see you later." Turns out he'd been screwing our neighbor for a few months. He'd wait until I fell asleep and then sneak over to her parents' house. That's right, she was 30 and still living with her parents. We divorced and he went on to cheat on her at least 3 times and even went as far as marrying one of them for a year before divorcing this affair partner and going back to the original AP. Both are stupid as hell because everyone knows he will cheat again. I had already dumped him because he accused me of cheating every other day and I was tired of proving my innocence while I wasn't involved in any suspicious situation. It was taking a toll on my mental health. I suffered from insomnia and I started to panic every time my phone rang. So, against all my friends' opinions, I stopped trying to solve problems and I dumped him. I asked him back the necklace I gave him. We didn't like rings, so it was a sort of promise necklace, and threw it on the highway on my way home. It was liberating. Fast forward some months. My friend was showing me her childhood friend on Facebook. Among her contacts, my ex's university friend, the girl I shouldn't worry about. We looked at her photos, and there was a pic of her with my ex, shirtless, on a bed, and the piece of crap was wearing my necklace, so it was before our breakup. I didn't catch him on the spot, but it was liberating to figure out what was happening.